Welcome to this edition of Daytona Beach Radio, presented by the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, with your radio host, the Reverend Dr. L. Ronal Durham. This weekly program features key persons from city government, business, and the community who will share their knowledge about what's happening in Daytona Beach. That will always be interesting and informative. Now join me as Dr. Durham welcomes the featured speaker for today's program. Good afternoon, beloved, and welcome to this edition of Daytona Beach Radio. I am your radio host, the Reverend Dr. L. Ronal Durham, Community Relations Manager for the City of Daytona Beach, Florida. And each and every week, as it said in that promo, we do promise to bring you something that is really timely and interesting. Today, as always, we have an exciting guest on the program, and we're going to have a discussion with him in just a couple of minutes. Things that are going on around the nation. That's really what we're going to talk about a little bit today. For today's program, you will be able to call in, and I really would love you to call in and ask my guests a question if you have one, or you can just provide a comment on the topic that we're discussing. We're here for one whole hour, so sit back, get your question in early so you're not blocked out by a busy signal. Now listen, when you call this number that I'm going to give you in 1 second, you will not have a live person answer the phone. You're going to be answered by our computer, so just stay on the line. Do not hang up. Hold on, and I'll cue you in when you're live to ask your question or give your comment. So sit back, enjoy the conversation today, and you are encouraged to call in. The number to call is 386-868-0635. 386-868-0635. So let's get right to it. It took about 10 minutes of gunfire for Stephen Craig Paddock to carry out the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. From the position at a Las Vegas hotel, Paddock fired a barrage of bullets at some 22,000 concert goers below at a country music festival. It was obviously there had to be meticulous planning that went into this shooting. The shooter checked himself into a hotel room overlooking the festival. He had stocked a cache of weapons and set up cameras both inside his hotel room and in the hallway. The first call of shots being fired came on Sunday night at 10:08 p.m., and the gunfire stopped at approximately 10:19 p.m., said Clark County Undersheriff Kevin McHale on Tuesday. He said the shooting went off and on for 9 to 11 minutes. The massacre left 59 people dead and another approximately 500 people wounded from both gunshots as well as stampedes. So welcome again to Daytona Beach Radio, and I'd like to introduce my guest after that introduction for today's program. He is the Chief of Police for the City of Daytona Beach, Florida, Chief Craig Capri. Good day, Chief. It's good to have you on Daytona Beach Radio.
Good day, Reverend. I'm glad to be here, Doc.
So, Chief, the reason I wanted you on the program today is because everyone is really aware that there was another horrific mass shooting in Las Vegas on Sunday. The target was a special event in the form of an outdoor concert. And in our city, here in Daytona Beach, we do have a lot of special events.
Yes, we do.
But let's start. Let's start with the shooter, Stephen Paddock. He was able, according to reports, to amass an arsenal of 24 guns in his hotel room, another 19 guns, and explosives that were found in his home. So my first question, here in Florida, could someone purchase 43 high-powered weapons without some kind of red flag going up?
Yeah, but before I answer that, I want to talk a little bit about the Las Vegas shooting.
Sure.
What a horrible tragedy.
Yes.
That affects our country.
Yeah.
When you have deranged individuals that get access to weapons and basically executed 59 people and injured over 500 people. I mean, just a horrific, tragic event. My hearts go out to the families and the law enforcement. We lost several law enforcement officers, 2 off-duty Las Vegas police officers, as well as a corrections lieutenant from California, and some civilian law enforcement employees from from the state of California. So, as well as civilians. So, I mean, it just these events are tragic and horrific, and we got to find a way to stop them. But in answer to your question, if somebody did purchase 43 high-powered weapons, the dealers are required to do what we call a multiple sale report, and they enter that into a database. It's monitored by the ATF, alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. I would think, as a competent, good business owner, if you would make that sale, I would think that as an owner, you'd be like a little like, what does this guy need the weapons for? But I think I would be calling the ATF or local law enforcement and give them a heads up. They're going to make the sale. It's about business, unfortunately. They're going to make the sale, but it would be nice if they gave us a heads up. If the sale was committed legally and there's nothing we could do about it, I understand that, but a heads up would have been nice. Now, I don't know if he bought these weapons at different times. From what I heard, he bought them from several different states at different locations. So this was, like you said, meticulously planned. It wasn't just a random act. So they are required to report that. One good thing about Daytona Beach, we have a detective assigned to the ATF, and they have an office space in our police headquarters. So we have 2 full-time ATF agents working out of here from the Orlando office, as well as our task force officer. And we're doing a lot of good things with them. So we have that knowledge right there with us and support.
You're listening to Daytona Beach Radio today. We're talking about the mass shooting that took place Sunday night in Las Vegas, Nevada. My special guest, my friend and special guest, Chief Craig Capri, is on the radio with us today. Listen, I want you to call in if you have a question, a comment, or if you would just like to express your condolences to the family, your well wishes. Give me a call. 386-868-0635 is our live number, 386-868-0635. Chief, I want to follow up with a question based on your answer because, like you said, if buying all of that ammo, all of those guns, it sounds to me, maybe I'm not a police officer, but it sounds to me like this guy had to have some help. Do you think he could have done all of this by himself?
You know, I think he could have done it by himself.
You do?
I really do. I think he could have, if he planned this out years in advance, or even within a year, a couple months, he went out and bought the guns and stockpiled and buying ammunition. Second Amendment gives him the right to do that. And out in the West is a little bit different than, different parts of the country are a little bit more laxed on gun laws. And we all follow the federal guidelines, of course. But you got to think about it. This guy was hell-bent on doing this. And that's the problem with these deranged individuals. They're going to do whatever they can to execute their plan of attack. And we need not only law enforcement, but we need community, business owners. See something, say something. If it's suspicious, call us. If you think, well, maybe I shouldn't call, that's when you need to call. Let us make that determination if it's a threat or not a threat. But no, I think this could have been carried out lone wolf, absolutely. But I think the investigation is going to take a long time. It could take years to find out what the motive was, a lot of forensic analysis, a lot of interviews, a lot of backtracking, and it's going to take a long time if we even find out why he did this.
So Chief Paddock had about a dozen, according to reports, about a dozen semi-automatic rifles that had been modified with an alteration known as a bump stock. So first tell us what a bump stock is, and then can that type of modification be purchased here in the state of Florida?
It can be. Right now it's legally to purchase, and basically it just gives you more ammunition to fire rapidly, more rapidly. But the thing is, since this happened, I did some checking, and a lot of people are pulling them off the shelves. I think a lot of businesses are getting like a little
worried.
Well, it's a reaction. Wow, this just happened. I'm going to pull them off the shelves. One thing about my research on the bump stock is it's not very accurate. But then again, when you're firing from the 30-second a story down into a parking lot or a field, it was basically a parking lot where they had the concert in, an area, you don't have to be accurate because you got 22,000 people down there. So I don't think he was really worried about accuracy. And if you listen to the video, initially sounds like fireworks if you don't know what gunshots were.
That's what I heard.
And I think the average person would think it was fireworks. Yeah. But when you watch some of the body camera footage that came out, and you could hear those bump stocks and the rapid succession of rounds coming down from up to above, and you're sitting there and it's dark. What do you do? A lot of people were frozen in place because they didn't know where to move. A lot of police officers were taking cover behind concrete walls trying to find out where the shots were coming from.
Right.
And there's a lot of heroes here that were able to, that's why most of these events, which we'll talk about later, is they're very quick. They don't last long. But police officers were on scene. You had them rushing to help people. And you had the security officer that actually determined which room he was in based on some calls and the smoke alarms that went off in the room from all that gunfire. And he was ended up being shot. But great response. But back to that, not to get off track, sir, but I can tell you that these things, there's no need for them, and I think you're going to see a lot of companies pulling them off the shelves.
Yeah. You're listening to Daytona Beach Radio. My special guest, Chief Craig Capri, is with us today. We're talking about the Las Vegas shooting on Sunday evening. We'd love for you to call. Tell us what you think about or what you thought about when you first heard about the shooting. Or if you have a question for the Chief, give us a call, 386-868-0635, 868-0635. Chief, we have a caller.
Okay,
Caller,
great.
Welcome to Daytona Beach Radio. You have Chief Craig Capri. What's your question or your comment?
Oh, yes, my heart go out to all those people about the tragedy that happened to them. I just want to have a question how did any of this man get into this motel without room service checking him or even seeing any kind of anything going on in his room or anything? They changed the sheets in there. They didn't see anything.
Well,
okay, because that's a good question, Chief. He was in the room for several days. And
I could tell you, when I was out in Vegas actually a couple months ago, and I could tell you that if you just request that you don't want any room service, they're not going to change your sheets. They got so many rooms in these hotels, they're not going to. I can tell you that they'll move on to the next room, and I can tell you that they probably would give him a sheets or towels, if that, or just towels, and he didn't change his sheets. But he could have brought those guns up, maybe several trips back and forth to the car in a suitcase. Nobody's going to know. When you go to these hotels down there, especially the Mandalay Bay, I actually had to go there when I was out there, and it's just so huge, and the lobbies are like nothing you ever imagined. They're huge. People coming and going. So I mean, it could if he took his time and did it over a couple days, I could see that and hid the stuff in the closet or under the beds and put do not disturb. And he was a high roller there from what they've known him, so all that comes into play. They knew who he was, so they probably didn't bother him.
Very good, good answer. Thank you for that call. Yes. We appreciate you calling. Give us a call. The Chief of Police is here. We're talking about the mass shooting that took place Sunday in Las Vegas. If you have a question, a comment, give us a call. Chief will answer your question right now. 386-868-0635, 386-868-0635. And for those of you who are listening to my program today, this program is sponsored by the City of Daytona Beach, and today we're doing something different than we've done in the past. We are actually filming the program for you because we're going to put it up on channel 490 on Spectrum. So you'll be able to play this back to your family and let them watch us as well as hear today's program. So that'll be up in the next couple of days, and keep checking channel 490 and you'll see it on the television itself. So, Chief, there's now there's an NRA-supported bill. I don't know if they've pulled it. I've heard maybe they pulled it, but it was scheduled to come before Congress to allow silencers to be legally purchased for a personal firearm. So what are your thoughts about somebody being able to go into a store? It reminds me of the old Untouchables movies. You see the guys with the silencers. What are your thoughts about somebody being able to buy a silencer for a gun? And how would that have affected what happened if this guy was using a silencer? How would that have impacted the crowd, you think?
Well, why do you need one? That's my first question or answer. Well, you don't need one. Why would you need a suppressor on a weapon? There's no really need for it. So I'm kind of against that. I don't think you need one. It's not practical. What are you going to do? You don't need it for hunting. You don't need it for definitely don't need them on the streets. Now we've had them on the SWAT team before on our old MP5 guns, and they throw the accuracy off a little bit, and there's some issues with them where it's just not practical for. We don't use them anymore in the SWAT arena at Daytona Beach Police Department. But I can tell you that there is really no need for them, and unless you're going to probably want to do something,
right,
illegal.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's a need for him.
Okay. And my thought, Chief, was if he was using a silencer, you don't know where it's coming from at that point. Nevada's an open carry state.
Yes.
If other people were pulling out their weapons, you don't know if the guy, 10 feet away from you, maybe he's the guy shooting.
Yeah.
You can't hear, where it's coming from. And so I think there'd have been more carnage
I think
in a situation like
from
that.
his vantage point and with the weapons coming out there, they would have figured it out eventually. Where it was coming from, because he had fully automatic and semi-automatic weapons, and he was just unloading magazine after magazine after magazine with the bump stock and just dumping rounds down range and on those poor people. And just it's amazing how how quickly the response time between 9 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. They were up to the room and they had him, and he ended up killing himself.
Right.
But that all goes to show the training, and we're going to talk about that later. I know about the training and response to these active threats, active shooters, because sometimes it's not weapons that are being fired. It could be somebody with a knife. It could be somebody with a improvised weapon or an IED, explosive device. So we have, the training's basically the same. You just make adjustments as you go along, but no need for suppressors.
Yeah,
No need.
I agree. I don't see what the purpose would be for that. At all.
No.
Like you said, hunting, why would you need it? I mean, you got to scare the deer first.
Yeah.
If the deer hears the shot, by the time the deer hears the shot, he's dead.
And it actually slows the round down too, coming out. So,
yeah.
I mean, if you're hunting, why would you want to slow a round down?
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't see that.
I don't either.
It's not practical.
I really don't. So Chief, if someone and I think you kind of talked on this a little bit about the fact that there has to be, I think, some kind of alert to the ATF.
A multiple sale report has to be completed by the gun dealer, and they complete that report, and it's a database that goes right to the ATF.
Yeah.
But whenever time you purchase a gun, if you don't have a concealed permit, and to buy a handgun, you got to wait 3 days.
Right.
If you go to buy a rifle, you don't have to, and that's because of the concealment purposes and whatnot. But I think, as a responsible gun owner, or a responsible gun dealer, you should know your customers. You should know who comes in and read somebody's body language. And if you think they're a little bit odd or a little bit off, and they come in and buying 43 high-powered weapons, which I don't think he bought at one time, but if you see somebody coming back and forth buying multiple weapons and ammo, you might want to alert the police just to give them a heads up.
Exactly.
It's going to come down to solve these problems and these issues is everybody getting involved and coming forward with information when they see something. Somebody saw something. Somebody knew something, and I think the investigation will determine that. But why didn't they say something?
Right.
If the guy had issues, I guess one report I heard today actually on the radio, that he said something about killing his mother. So you think somebody saying killing their mother, that's not normal human behavior, that they would notify the police, but people don't. Sometimes people just don't want to get involved, and I think that's what hurts us as law enforcement. Law enforcement can't solve all the problems. We can do it with help, with a partnership with our community and witnesses coming forward and people just not being afraid to come forward and helping out your fellow neighbor. We could have maybe prevented this tragedy or future tragedies.
Future, yeah,
yes,
absolutely. And that brings me, Chief, to the girlfriend.
Yes,
they just brought her back from the Philippines.
I saw that.
And they're questioning her. So in a hypothetical like that, Chief, what kind of questions would you ask the girlfriend to try to extract information from her? Because obviously, living in the house with him,
yes,
how would you extract the answers from her on what she may have witnessed being in the home with him for 2.5 years.
It would have to be a strategic interview. You're going to have to do it over several days because there's so much information to try to extract from her. But like I said, from what I heard, she was a victim also of domestic violence. He would berate her and yell at her in I believe it was a Starbucks coffee shop where they live. So I would ask her, everything possible about his behavior, where he, what was his daily habits? Where do you think he bought the guns from? Because, where did he keep the guns? Did he ever talk to you? I mean, there's a whole wide array. It's going to take a team of strategic, switching people in and out to interview her to get the information they need. And it's not going to happen in a day or two, a couple days. It's going to take weeks to get what you need and go back as she, refresh her memory and if she even cooperates. From what I hear, she is, but that's coming from the news. I haven't heard of that from any law enforcement intelligence that she's cooperating. So
Right.
that could be just assumed. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I would think if you're living with somebody, as long as she has, and known his behavior, she had to know something.
Something. Yeah. Yeah.
But she was out of the country. I don't know. They're saying he did that strategically to get her out of there
get her out,
and,
yeah.
and sent $100,000 over there. And we're talking about a guy that wasn't, indigent. He was a multimillionaire.
Oh, he was a millionaire, yeah.
And
a high roller.
and
yeah.
had money, and something caused him to snap, because something caused him to do this. I just don't know if we'll ever really know,
Yeah.
but we have to try. We owe it to those victims to find out and get answers for the families.
Some closure, yeah.
Absolutely.
You're listening to Daytona Beach Radio. I'm your host, Dr. L. Ronal Durham. My special guest today is the chief of our police department here in Daytona Beach, Chief Craig Capri. We're talking about, if you're just tuning in, the conversation today is about the mass shooting that took place Sunday in Las Vegas, Nevada. We'd love for you to call with what you were thinking about when you heard about the shooting, or a question that you may have for the chief to answer. Give us a call. The number's 386-868-0635, 386-868-0635. So, Chief, this was considered a mass shooting. So how does a mass shooting differentiate itself from other types of gun violence?
It's all gun violence. The difference between the mass shooting is you have more casualties, more victims.
Okay.
These suspects look for targets where a lot of people are going to be at, whether it be a mall or a movie theater. You look at the Aurora, Colorado shootings a couple years ago for the Batman premiere. I got to see a debrief on that from Chief Dan Oates, who's now with the Miami Beach Police Department.
Okay.
And you see how that suspect planned that massacre out. And he had some technical issues with the weapon where it was malfunctioned. Otherwise, he would have killed more people. So his goal was to take out as many people as he could.
Right.
And that's what they try to do. These sick, deranged individuals. They're looking for areas that have a mass crowd, whether it be a church, when they're having a service,
Right.
whether it be the mall.
Right.
On a packed day at the mall, I could see something like that, or a sporting event. They're looking to make an impact.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, gun violence is an everyday occurrence in this country, and sometimes we just push it to the back of the newspaper. But when you have a mass shooting, it's going to be headline news, it's going to be out there, and it's going to be talked about for a long time.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. I mean, more victims, and more victims is just sad. And when you have children getting killed, it's just horrible. And I could tell you, the Sandy Hook shooting up there at Sandy Hook, you had a lot of young kids killed. So what's safe anymore, what's not safe anymore?
Right.
I think you always have to be vigilant, not only as a law enforcement officer, but as a civilian. You need to be vigilant, know your surroundings, be prepared, have a plan. Have a plan for your family. If you're out at a mall, if you're out at a public venue, and if an active threat breaks out, know a plan and stick to your plan and practice it. So that way, if it does happen, God forbid, you will know exactly what to do, and you can probably survive it.
Yeah, and that's a very good suggestion,
Yes.
Chief. You go to the malls with your family, you go to these events, you should have something that you've talked about on the way there. If something happens, here's where we're going to meet.
Yep.
If we get split up, and have that plan in place.
Know the exits, know where so you can get out, know where your vehicles are parked, and observe individuals.
Very
Look for
good.
erratic behavior.
That's very good.
You can watch and see things. You'll know. You can pick up on it.
That's true. 386-868-0635. 386-868-0635. That's our live number. The Chief of Police, Chief Craig Capri, is my special guest today on Daytona Beach Radio. We're talking about the mass shooting, Las Vegas, on Sunday. For those of you who are listening, we also are filming this segment. This is new for us, Chief.
Okay.
Filming Daytona Beach Radio. Our technician is here, Lou, from the city, and so we're branching out into
He does a great job, too.
He does. He's terrific. So we're branching out into a new arena and seeing how this works out, and maybe it's something we'll do on a more frequent basis.
I like it.
I do too. 386-868-0635. 386-868-0635. Chief, is there and you talked about the number of guns, and I read somewhere recently that there's almost a gun on the street for every single person in the population of the United States. It's pretty close to that.
I can believe that.
From what I read.
I could believe that.
But is there a relationship between the number of gun owners or gun ownership and the level of crime that we have in our cities?
Well, not necessarily. I think if you talk about legal gun ownership, how many people that legally own guns really commit crimes?
Okay.
I don't know those numbers, but I would say it's not that many.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of guns on the streets. Unfortunately, you can go out in Daytona Beach and get a gun probably within a half hour if you know where to go.
Yeah.
That's the problem. Illegal gun ownership, illegal guns on the streets. How do guns become illegal? How do they get on the streets? And I can tell you, you could be a legal gun owner and leave your car unlocked with your gun in there, and that car gets broken into and that gun gets stolen.
Right.
That gun's on the streets now, and it could be used to commit crime. So I would think that's irresponsible gun ownership. But and that could be a contributing factor to some of the gun violence out here. But I think the average law-abiding legal gun owner knows how to do the right thing. They secure their weapons. They don't leave their weapons out where children can get to them, and they do the right thing. But unfortunately, there's going to be guns on the street. There's going to be guns on the street, and bad guys are going to get those guns. And you have to have weapons, especially us as law enforcement, have the correct the right firepower to defend and protect ourselves, not only ourselves but the citizens.
To match, you have to at least be able to match what's coming at you.
There is a relationship, but I would think that unfortunately, it's not the legal gun owners we're worried about. It's the ones on the street or the ones that have mental issues. Mental illness is a big problem in this country, which is a contributing factor too.
And in fact, Chief, your department for the last few years, has had an annual buyback program, right? Talk about that for a minute.
We buy back guns, no questions asked. You just come down, and we do it once a year. This year we ran out of money.
Wow.
We spent about $3,000 in about 4 or 5 hours and recovered about 80 guns.
Wow.
So any gun, one gun off the street is one gun. That's a success that cannot be used on somebody innocent or against the police officers, and it doesn't need to, or in the hands of a young child that might play with it. We had a kid kill himself in the Orlando area yesterday. I heard, found a gun and shot himself.
Wow.
I mean, these things are dangerous if you don't know what you're doing with them.
Yeah.
And I don't recommend any child to be having access to any weapons. I don't recommend any person who has a mental illness be around weapons. I don't recommend anybody who isn't afraid of guns and don't know how to use a weapon be around a weapon. So a firearm. So you got to be trained and you got to be responsible.
Yeah. And, statistically, Chief, homicides or suicides are exponentially increased when there's a gun in the home. That's just a fact.
People are acting on emotion. The weapon's there, they grab it and they use it. We've seen that. I've been to several suicide scenes and several homicide scenes, and the weapon was used. And it's just like, well, what if that weapon wasn't in the house? It's just how do you predict people's behavior? Because it comes down to not the gun that's going to kill somebody.
Right. It's
the person. And how do you know somebody's mindset at that given point in time, when they're going to snap or if they have issues, if they're depressed? It's just so hard. And it comes down to other factors, social factors, as far as economic status, or are they involved in some kind of criminal activity? Or is it the mental health issue here in this country that's a mess?
Right.
That has a huge factor, in gun violence too. So, absolutely. And the gang violence, the criminal gang violence is huge too.
Yeah. You're listening to Daytona Beach Radio. Chief Craig Capri is my special guest today. Give us a call. I'd like to hear your thoughts. We're talking about the shooting in Las Vegas on Sunday night. You know the number, 386-868-0635, 386-868-0635. We'd love for you to call. The Chief will answer your question, or if you just want to tell us what you were thinking when you heard about yet another mass shooting in the United States. I'm going to take a 60-second break. When I come back from the break, we'd love for you to call us, 386-868-0635. See you on the other side. All right. Vanessa did a good job. New feature on Daytona Beach Radio. Our announcements will be done by Vanessa starting on today. And she did a great job. Why don't you call and tell Vanessa how well she did? 386-868-0635. 386-868-0635. So, Chief, we were getting back to this issue with the Las Vegas shooting. This question, I think, to me, when I thought about it, I said, well, maybe there is something to this. Let me ask it to you. Do people own guns in our cities, like Daytona Beach, do they own guns in the city for a different reason than they own guns, say, in a farm or rural area?
We're from Jersey, so I don't know.
Yeah,
about
we're
no
both
farms.
from Jersey. In fact, we're from the same
city.
town in Jersey,
Yes.
right? Passaic.
Passaic,
Shout out
yes.
for Passaic.
Yes, sir. I would think there would be different reasons. I think on the farm you'd be out in the middle of nowhere and you might have weapons for your protection or for hunting. But then again, in the city they would have the same thing, not so much for hunting, but for protection. So I think universally across the board, people have guns for protection. Maybe on a farm in the rural area, you might need it for other things. I don't know. Probably hunting, I would think.
Hunting, yeah. Because I thought maybe the mindset, I guess, of someone living in a rural area may be a little different from someone in the city. But they both own guns, and so
I think it depends on geography too of the country. I would think in the South, and it'd be guns would be more prevalent and
it's part
accessible.
of the culture. Yeah.
But if we up where we're from,
Right.
you get caught with the gun, you're done.
Oh, yeah.
You just can't walk in a store and buy a gun in New Jersey or New York or anything.
The hardest thing for me to do was get a gun permit in Jersey.
It's almost impossible.
I got one, but it
it's
was
tough.
because I had a chief.
Yes.
that put it. He got it through for me.
It just doesn't work. You just don't walk in the store up in
You-
New Jersey
you
and buy, or New York
can't.
City and buy a gun. It's not going to happen. So
it's really
I would
tough.
think if you look at different parts of the country, maybe out west in Texas, it's different than it is in Florida, than it is in the northeast part of the country, New York, New Jersey. So I think that would be a bigger determination so much as than rural being in the country if you're a farmer than compared to being in the city. So.
Yeah. All right, you're listening to Daytona Beach Radio. Chief Craig Capri is on the line with me, on the air with me. We're also, if you're just tuning in, we are filming Daytona Beach Radio today, so you can go to Bright House, channel 490 in a couple of days. This film segment will be on Spectrum, so it'll give you a chance to listen to it again in case there's something you missed, or if you wanted to have other members of your family to watch it because you just thought it was that good, which I think it is. Get your family around the TV and all sit down together and watch this segment. Chief has given us a wealth of information already about everything going on with that mass shooting, and he's enlightened me to a lot of things that I didn't think about. So give us a call, 386-868-0635, 386-868-0635. Chief will be here for just a few more minutes. So, Chief, why do you think some neighborhoods, say like Chicago, for instance, are examples of or are hotbeds, rather, for gun violence, and other communities you have hardly any gun violence? What's the difference, you think?
Well, it's funny because Washington, D.C. is one of the hardest states
to get a gun,
on guns.
Right? Yeah.
Second is the state of Illinois, and Chicago's in the state of Illinois.
Right.
And I can tell you, my sister-in-law lives downtown Chicago, in the Lincoln Park section. But you read the paper, and my wife's family's from there. Everything's happening on the south side of Chicago. I believe it was 58 people were shot this past weekend in Chicago, and that's unfortunately an every weekend occurrence. And a lot of it, most of it, like all of it, is gang related. And we need to do something to break that cycle with the gangs, the gang violence, the drug trade. And you got young people getting killed out here, and it's unfortunate. So I would say, here you have a state that has one of the most strictest gun laws in the country. Yet there's guns on the streets and people are killing each other. So it just goes to show you can have every aggressive gun law you have to prevent people from having guns, and you're still going to have people getting killed with guns. And I don't know what they're going to do there in Chicago. It's a mess over there on that south side of Chicago.
It is.
I just don't know. I mean, I would think it's intervention in the schools, getting the families involved, try to break this gang cycle, people getting in gangs, kids getting in gangs.
Right.
But the country needs to come together as a whole with solutions for Chicago.
Yeah.
Because evidently they're not doing a good job over there. I hate to say it.
Right.
When you have 58 people getting killed. And a lot of these are African American.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
The
majority.
Majority of it is. And we need to take that seriously and try to get some programs in those communities and really try to break that culture, the cycle of violence and accepting violence and gun violence, not only in the African American community but in communities across the board. But speaking for Chicago, that seems to be the hotbed of the country right now. The issues you're having out in L.A. and back in the 80s, those gang wars, they still have gangs, but you don't see the gun violence like you do here in Chicago right now. So, and I have family there, so I kind of keep an eye on what's going on there, and I have some friends up there. So, it's pretty bad.
It is.
It's pretty bad. Young kids,
Yeah.
Getting killed.
It's amazing, and just like drug trafficking, which
Yep.
you mentioned, Chief. Obviously, there's a gun traffic trade, and I think it's a little harder for me just because of the size of a gun versus the size of a nickel bag. It's a little harder to bring the guns in, but they managed to do it.
They're just everywhere, like you said
incredible.
earlier.
Yeah.
Everybody in you take the population, and that's just as many guns are on the street. I believe it's probably more than that too, because guns are accessible everywhere, and it just comes back to the education of legal, proper gun ownership, and removing the guns off the streets from the bad guys. But just to do that, it's going to be a huge campaign, starting with the young kids and breaking that cycle of it's okay to have a gun, it's accept to have an illegal gun and commit crime. And the drug trade, break that drug trade up, and just really get to the kids, because I don't think any human being wakes up, is born into this earth saying, "Hey, I'm going to be a bad, violent criminal." It doesn't happen. I think society changes them, and a lot of factors. But I think if you can break it and get them when they're young, and get kids on the right path, I think that's going to change that for generations to come, where we won't have these issues. So I'm a firm believer in that. I think any kid can change, no matter where you're born or where you come from. You can succeed and do it and be wherever you want to be.
I'm a firm believer in the same thing, Chief. And being a pastor as long as I was, I saw kids that were right on the edge, and we were able to save them, keep them from going down that pathway. So it's all about caring for them, loving them, showing them there's another option, giving them ways that they can get to a healthy lifestyle.
And that might not come from the family.
Yeah, a lot of times
it's going to come from outside.
A lot of times it did. It came from the church.
It's going to come from the
family
churches.
Was a wreck.
It's going to come from friends. It's going to come from people that care. And I think we do a good job here in Daytona as far as engaging our community, identifying at-risk kids, and getting on them immediately and getting them in programs and trying to help them out. And our juvenile crime has gone down, but we've actually attacked juvenile crime. So I've seen some success stories, and we've seen some kids that just didn't make it, and it's sad, but we're not going to quit or give up.
Right.
We're really going to be aggressive on juvenile crime to break that cycle. We're trying to prevent stuff that's going to happen 20, 30 years from now, starting with the young kids now. And if you can break it, it's going to change a whole generation, and it's going to change and change and change to the point where we're not going to have issues like this or as prevalent as we do right now. So it's a long-term plan. It's nothing that's going to happen overnight, but it all comes back to how do you change people's mindsets and how do you change a culture. So.
And I'm going to talk to you about something too, Chief, in a few days. I met a guy, and it's going to be great. I think great for our kids.
Okay.
He's from Michigan, just moved into the area, and he's a cartoonist, and he teaches kids how to draw these cartoons, like Disney type characters or other, and I think that getting them into something like that where they can use their talent, use their skills. If they like to draw, he will teach them how to become an expert in doing these kind of cartoony characters.
And there's money in it.
I'd love to see us bring a bunch of kids maybe to the community room, let him come in and do a class or a few class, from elementary, middle. He said any age he can do it. So
we got programs here. UCF has a great cartooning program where I know a kid that went through it, and he's now an executive producer on a major cartoon show on Cartoon Network. So there's potential. Not every kid can play baseball or football, and some kids don't like sports.
Right.
They might like music. So you got to find what that kid likes, and you got to really give them every opportunity to succeed, regardless of where they come from, where they live, or any kind of socioeconomic background. You got to help these kids. You got to change it. Somebody's got to take the initiative to do that. So we're trying.
I want to talk to you about that.
Yes, sir.
I think that'd be
I'd love to help
good
out.
one. Yeah, I really do. 386-868-0635. 386-868-0635. I only have the Chief for maybe a couple of minutes more, so if you'd like to get a question in about the mass shooting in Vegas, now is your opportunity. Pick up the phone, dial it, 386-868-0635. So, Chief, here's the question that I think is very important to our community to know. Unfortunately, preparing for emergencies like this has become the reality for law enforcement officers. So can you tell us a little bit about the training that we've done here in Daytona Beach for this type of emergency situation?
Oh, sure. Yeah, we train all the time for this. Believe it or not, we train year-round for active shooter, active threat. If it goes all the way back to the Columbine incident, you look how our training has evolved when you have a shooting at a school, and that was what, I think 98?
90 something.
Yeah, and
sounds right.
So you had the shooting there, and they waited for the SWAT team for 2 hours. That changed to when you have a shooting, you wait for 4 officers to get there.
Yeah.
Now it's the first officer that gets there, goes in, and looks for the threat and neutralizes the threat.
Wow.
There's no waiting. You have to go. Because like I said, these incidents, minutes we're talking about. So the first responders need to get there and do their job. So we do a lot of scenario-based training. We'll review the Las Vegas shooting like we did the Colorado shooting, and we'll go through scenarios, and we practice and train and train and train and train and train. So God forbid that does happen,
Right.
we know what we need to do.
Right. I think we had a caller. Call us back. The chief will be here
Sorry,
for a
yeah,
couple of minutes. That's okay. Call us back, caller. He's here for a couple of more minutes, and we'd love to get your question in. 386-868-0635 is the number. 868-0635. Because, Chief, the training, you have access to a lot of places where our officers can be trained. The FBI Academy.
Yes, I went
can you
there.
talk a little bit about some of those areas?
We went to, we use a lot of simulation training and scenario-based training. Simulations is equivalent of, like, I'll call it paintball. So when we do our training, you're getting hit, and it hurts. So it makes you take the training more serious.
Right.
When you're actually training with, like almost a detergent round. But when you get hit, it welts you up. So you're going to take training a little more seriously. And we do a lot of scenario-based training, active threat, active shooter training. We go to different businesses and train with their employees on how to act. I think a better trained, better educated police department is what's going to get you through this.
We have a caller, Chief. Caller, welcome to Daytona Beach Radio. What's your question or your comment?
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Yes, my name is Charlene, and I just have a couple questions about the shooting in Vegas.
Okay.
Chief, in your opinion, there's a conspiracy theory, of course, going around saying that there was more than one shooting involved in the Vegas attack. And my question is, do you know for a fact that there wasn't? And do you think that the gentleman that committed, I can't call him a gentleman, that committed this crime had some type of help?
Yes, answer to the first part, I don't know enough about that to see if I haven't heard anything about being a conspiracy, but I'm sure they're going to investigate every aspect of this shooting. But there could always be a possibility that there was somebody else involved, yes. I don't know. They're going to investigate that, and it's going to take a long time. That investigation is not going to happen overnight. I'm sure we'll get an after-action report when they're done. But,
yes, well, you'd have to agree with me that it's just amazing how one person could, of course, bring in so much arsenal. The hotel didn't detect it, and, I was just wondering, have you heard anything about it being more than one person?
I haven't heard it this time, and I've been reading all the Homeland Security reports, but I can tell you these hotels are so massive, you could walk in over a couple days, a little bit at a time, and bring weapons and stockpile stuff. It would go unnoticed. They're about making money in those casinos, and they're focusing on people coming in there spending money and so they can make money. And they have great security systems too. But if you put stuff in a bag and walk in a couple boxes and keep coming in and out, you're going to go unnoticed, especially when they know the guy.
But the man had like 10 bags, and I'm quite sure hopefully the camera caught this activity that
they're reviewing all the camera footage.
In the future, something like this, can't happen.
I'm sure.
And how we have copycat people now.
Absolutely,
they're going to be watch what he did, and you might have somebody that might try this again.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And I have a lot of people and friends and family members that go to Las Vegas, for different activities, and they want to feel safe.
Right.
So hopefully these hotels will beef up their security and be more observant of stuff like this.
I think they will. I think you'll see some massive security changes there. But then again, Charlene, you cannot live in fear. You have to live your life,
No.
believe in God, and be ready at all times.
Yeah.
And react.
Yeah.
If you see something, say something. You know, I'm sure they're going to look at all this video footage which they're going through now, and we're going to find some answers, but I don't think we'll get the whole reason why. But to answer your question, one man could carry out this attack as quick as he did it and as he planned it. One person could be responsible for this. It's not out of the realm of a possibility where he just, he's opening fire. So down on those people.
Yes, sir. Yeah. It's just really amazing, and it's
sad.
Such a tragedy that something tragedy. Like that could happen
Pray
here.
For the
you
families.
know,
Pray for these people.
Yeah. That's what we have to do.
So, I appreciate your time.
Yes, ma'am. You have
and
a great day.
Thank you very much.
God bless you.
Bless you, dear. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much. Keep listening. Okay. God
Yes,
bless you.
sir.
Thank you. You're listening to Daytona Beach Radio. For those of you who are still with us, I have the Chief of Police of the great city of Daytona Beach, Florida, Chief Craig Capri. He and I are from the same city, Passaic, New Jersey. We are homeboys, and we're Yankee fans, and we're playing tonight.
Yes,
yes.
Game 1 against Cleveland. Tough series.
It's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be tough.
Yeah, but we got Judge. We got the Judge.
Be all right.
Yeah, we got the Judge. So give us a call. He'll be here for just another minute or two. 386-868-0635 is the number. 386-868-0635. We are filming today's segment of Daytona Beach Radio. Our technician from the city, Lou Garcia, is here with us. One of the best anywhere in the country, I think. And you'll be able to watch this segment on your television on Channel 490 Spectrum. So be looking for that in the next couple of days. I think he'll have it finished and loaded. And Chief, the lady asked the kind of question that, well, I'll get back to it.
Yep.
We have another caller. Caller, welcome to Daytona Beach Radio. You have Chief Craig Capri. What's your question or your comment?
Absolutely, and welcome, Chief Capri. You're doing an excellent job.
Thank you.
Keep it happening.
Thank you.
Just to say, what can a citizen do to help to lobby seriously for some type of national registry, gun control, so that when people start to stockpile weapons of that caliber, that some kind of alert goes off? Because there has to be some type of mechanism that when somebody has 30, 40 automatic weapons and enough ammo for a small army, that somebody is paying attention to that.
Well, the ATF is when these gun dealers register it and they are alerted, but there's so many people that are doing this. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
I know.
People are afraid, and they start stockpiling weapons, and they think, Armageddon theorists and whatnot. And most of them are legal, normal people. They're just, I guess, a little scared. But
it's legal, normal people that are out here doing the shooting.
Yeah, you're right.
The people that we look at every day, and
you're
you say, oh, they're normal, they're legal, are the ones that are standing on top of the building shooting people.
Well, I mean, like I said, most legal gun owners are not the problem. But you have people that have mental illnesses, and this gentleman here definitely had some mental illnesses. He was deranged, and there was some warning signs too. But what do? I mean, you got it comes down, like I said, I've been saying all along. People have to unite and see things, and when they see something, the police aren't going to be able to see everything. Call the police and notify us. Even if you're afraid to call us, remain anonymous. Give us the information so we can investigate it. We have great technology. We have great investigative skills. We'll no lead, any information we get, we're going to follow to the full extent and check it. No matter how, if you might think it's outrageous and it doesn't make sense, let us determine that. That's what I try to tell people. Nothing nowadays.
That's the kind of citizen I am. And the building where I am, if anything looks out of the ordinary, I report it.
Please
and
call
I
us.
worry later about whether or not I should have or shouldn't.
You'll never get questioned. Nobody will ever get mad at you for that.
That's right.
Nobody's ever going to get mad at you.
That's right.
For that.
Amen.
Especially nowadays.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well,
I appreciate your time.
Thank you for your
thank
call.
You for all
Appreciate
that
you.
you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for calling. All right, beloved. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
God bless you.
All right. Chief, and the caller just before this one made a comment that I wanted to. I was glad to hear you say that. When they get all of this stuff analyzed and looked at, they're going to be sharing it with you.
Oh,
because
yes.
I think that's how you become better.
Yep.
Because you get information about a scenario or a situation that you can now share with your troops and get even more prepared.
We put it in our plan so we can prepare.
Mm-hmm.
We learn from all these shootings and these threats so hopefully it never happens anywhere, but
right.
if God forbid it ever happens here, we are ready.
Mm-hmm.
We work great with the Sheriff Chitwood and his staff, and all the Volusia Flagler police chiefs work very good together. There's no egos, everybody's working together. So we come up with a county-wide plan. But Daytona Beach, let's face it, we're the biggest city in the county, and everything happens in Daytona.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I feel that we are very ready. I feel very comfortable that we will react, and I think we have a lot of good measures in place with our task force, federal partners. Things I think we're prepared.
Yeah.
Hopefully we never have to use any of this stuff, but I know that we have a plan, a very good plan.
Yeah. And, that cooperation with the other cities is so vital. I mean,
Yes, it is.
Our population, quadruples when some of these events come in?
Spring break.
And so you're stretched thin. So having those other officers come in and assist, helping you with, patrols and watching what's going on is very, very critical.
We have a very safe city.
Yeah, we do.
And it's not just saying that. We actually prepare and plan for it.
Yeah, we do.
Every day.
Well, I want to thank you, Chief, for taking an
Thank
hour
you,
out of
Reverend.
your day with everything you have to do.
Anytime you want me, I'll be more than I love the show, so I'll be
Okay.
more than happy to come by.
Well, thank you so much, and hopefully it won't be a tragic situation like
Yes,
this
sir.
next time.
Hopefully, let's pray that never happens
Let's
again.
pray not. Let's pray not. You've been listening to the Chief of Police, Chief Craig Capri. He has been my special guest for the past hour. What a wealth of information he shared with us, everybody. If you've been listening for the whole hour, like me, you probably feel a little bit better now because we live in one of the safest cities, I think, in America, and our chief is doing a great job. He's doing it with people who are committed. They're dedicated to the work that they're doing, and they're first. They're going toward the danger as we're running away from it. So, Chief, thank you for all you do.
Reverend, thank you so much for having me.
And you have our prayers always for your safety and those of your department.
I appreciate that. God bless you.
God bless you. All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps us up for today's program. Again, if you're tuning in, this is being filmed. It's going to be on Channel 490 Spectrum in the next 48 hours or so. You'll be able to watch this live on your television. So we thank our technician Lou for being here today and his staff that help us and assist with all we do. Daytona Beach, I'm your host, Reverend Dr. L. Ronal Durham, our studio engineer, Vanessa, our new announcement person. You'll have to tune in every Thursday to get the announcements from Vanessa, and it'll be stuff that will help you as you travel around the city and do what you do day to day. We love you. God bless you. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.